Welcome to Saul Talk, a WB Saul High School of Agricultural Sciences production featuring the class of 2021 Natural Resource Management students.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm Mr. Smith, your Saul Talk host, as well as the career and technical educator responsible for the Natural Resource Management students featured in this episode. Our objective is to bring awareness, understanding, provide solutions, and advocate for environmental topics and issues relevant to our class, directly affecting our communities, and impacting our planet at large. Today, my students will be discussing climate change and greenhouse gas reforms.
This past September, the Pennsylvania Environmental Quality Board approved a draft rule for the state to join the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Essentially, RGGI is an agreement by a state to cap and reduce CO2 emissions coming from its power sector. According to an article published on State Impact Pennsylvania website, when a state becomes part of RGGI, it can enforce regional structures to shift away from greenhouse power plants by making them pay allowances for the carbon dioxide they emit. In existing RGGI states, the program says CO2 emissions from the power plant have fallen by 45% from a base level measured from 2006 to 2008. By joining RGGI, the Department of Environmental Protection estimates the Commonwealth will prevent 180 million tons of carbon dioxide pollution by 2030. That's a 25% decrease between 2022 and 2030.
Thank you, Joshua. I would like to open up the floor with this question. Do you think Pennsylvania joining RGGI is a good or bad idea for our state? Why or why not?
I think RGGI is a good idea for our state because the money collected from the factories can help the state in development, such as creating jobs, funding education, and highway improvement. It's also a good idea because factories can choose to release less CO2 to save money for the company, and which can help the environment.
I feel as though the RGGI Act would actually help because companies would typically not want to pay that tax on the amount of CO2 they produce. So then they wouldn't have to pay that tax anymore.
So what are the types of power plants that's generating these greenhouse gases that RGGI will be charging for?
Okay, yeah, the types of power plants that they're going to, start to charge are the ones that particularly oil, coal, stuff like that, stuff that just release more CO2 into the air and destroy the atmosphere.
I agree with Sean. The use of petroleum can also be an effect since more than half of the United States uses that.
Absolutely. So fossil fuels, petroleums, oils, gases are really bad. And as we have been discussing, the power plants are a big problem. But what are some of the other things that contribute to increased amounts of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere?
Transportation.
Can you elaborate on that, Maxine?
Oh, yeah. So like driving, or it could even be transportation of moving food, either across the state or even across the country.
Raising cattle tends to produce a lot of methane. Methane is actually 24 times more powerful than carbon dioxide.
If Pennsylvania decides to join RGGI, that would mean that we need to convert some of our existing power plants to more renewable sources of energy. What would you recommend being the alternative to what we are currently using?
We could use solar panels. I feel where there's a lot of tall buildings and there's space on those tall buildings that you could put solar panels on.
Also, to go off of what Maxine is saying, a lot of buildings downtown are actually now starting to put solar panels and wind turbines on their buildings.
So Paul Higgins, a climate scientist who studies the consequences and possible solutions of global warming, said, anybody who emits greenhouse gases is able to treat the atmosphere as a free dumping ground. We've spoken so far about large-scale contributions to climate change. How do you see citizens like ourselves contributing?
It could be so simple, even by like unplugging your phone charger when your phone's not on it. It could be as simple as this, instead of driving, walking to the grocery store. even if you do have a car, you should, do tune-ups on your tires. If your tires are starting to get flat, your car works more and it produces more emissions into the air. Even doing full loads of laundry, instead of like putting one shirt in the washer, just do a full load and, use cold water instead of hot water.
Those are all very, very good suggestions. And I'll add one on too, is reducing our food waste. A lot of our landfills are inundated with a lot of organic material, primarily from our food. And when that decomposes, if not disposed of properly, it does go into our atmosphere and contribute to greenhouse gases. How do you think COVID-19 has contributed?
It actually lowered the amount of emissions due to everybody staying home and not traveling so much.
Even though COVID-19 has taken a lot from us and it's taken a great toll, I think it's really sad that we needed a global pandemic to show how terrible we actually treat our environment and how much we actually affect it.
Joshua, I have to agree with you. I hope one thing that we learned from COVID-19, particularly when it comes to our environment, is we need to do less. We need to do less polluting. We need to do a lot less or more strategic ways of transportation. And we need to really encourage future uses of alternative energy that isn't polluting our atmosphere. So that concludes our Saul Talk on climate change with these outstanding natural resource management students from WB Saul High School of Agricultural Sciences. We truly hope you got something out of our conversation and hope you tune into our other Saul Talks where we will address more environmental issues.
To learn more about our school and how to watch our Saul Talk,
follow us on Instagram at WBSaul_media.
We at Saul Talk believe everyone can participate and contribute towards correcting our environmental wrongs and problems.
Saul Talk is a WB Saul High School production featuring Sierra Brody, Ashante Carr, Zadia Liz Davila, Joshua McCuff, Elijah Mendoza, Anthony Rivera, and Sean Washington. Taught by CTE teacher and Saul Talk curriculum producer, Mr. Gregory Smith. Every day is Earth Day.